Hello and welcome. I am Light, and this is my podcast. I am very sorry for the delay. Both of my moderators are currently at Sonic. Both of them are currently moderating from Sonic. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And Jory wants to know if anybody wants to be a backup moderator for the backup moderator.
For a small Patreon fee, you too can be a backup moderator.
Yeah, because apparently we need more than one. Hey, Maya. Moderator Maya is on. Hello, Maya. Go ahead and bring us some chili cheese dogs. Okay.
Yeah, I could really use the extra long one for this.
Okay, so let's go. Today, I have with me Jory.
Hello, lighters or exiters or whatever you prefer to be called.
And we are going to talk about some place that is arguably one of the most haunted places in America, and it is the Casa Grande Domes. Jory and I have had I don't know if the word would be pleasure, of living in Casa Grande. I no longer do. Jory still does. And so this is a place that we know quite a bit about. So I think it's going to be fun doing this podcast. And Jory has had a lot of experiences out there. And Jory worked on an episode of Ghost Adventures while they were out there. So we'll get to hear some inside scoop as well. For those of you that do not know, I have a Patreon account. Moderator Maya can put the link up to that in due time, I guess.
When she's done doing the mobile moderating.
Yeah. And the donations to that will go directly towards making merchandise. I know I've had several requests about Exit Light merchandise. You guys are chomping at the bit for some chupacabra. And we're trying to come up with a way to have a certain other topic we speak about.
Necrophilia?
Yes. Okay, there you go. How far are we into this?
We can call our fans necrophiliacs, and we can all wear I'm a necrophiliac shirt. Sponsored by Exit Light.
Things like that could get you arrested. I don't know.
Oh, it's so clever.
Yeah. We could call it an exit-philiac. My personal preference is to do the average temperature of a human body is what, Jory?
98 degrees.
98.6. So I think we should have a t-shirt that says 72.1. And just wear that and nobody will know.
That's my favorite degree.
And gross.
What? That's what.
And then we can have like a meat thermometer underneath it.
Oh.
How do you think they test what the body temperature is, Jory?
I was thinking one of those thermometers you put in the turkey when it's in the oven.
Yeah, a meat thermometer.
Is that a meat thermometer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, moving along we already hit that topic. So there you go, Mad Meerkat. Already been talked about. Hello, Deity Paranormal. So today we're going to talk about something spooky. And I hope this prepares you guys because the whole month of October, we're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be one video per day, something scary. And I'm going to have a new segment where I do excerpts from very famous, scary authors like Edgar Allan Poe, for instance. And I'm going to do classics from long dead authors who are not yet forgotten And I am very excited for that because I enjoy that kind of thing. These will be stories where I narrate them to you, get comfortable somewhere, listen to me read you a story, and, you know, fall asleep if you'd like. It'll be interesting. So I'm excited about that because there's several stories I picked out that we will be reading and looking into, and one of them is my very, very, very most favorite scary story of all times, and it's The Hound of the Baskervilles. And if you guys have never read The Hound of the Baskervilles or even know what I'm talking about, it's a Sherlock Holmes book. So it's written by, what's his name? Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And it's really good. So if you would like, Jory, you can hear my tea being poured. If you would like, Jory, I will start with some history about. Mad Meerkat says sounds a bit chilly. Well, yes, that is the point. We thought about calling it. I can't even tell you. I can't tell you. I'll tell you later. All right, so I'm going to give you the history on the Casa Grande Domes if you guys want. And then Jory can also talk to us about some of his experiences, things he's seen and heard himself. And here we go. So the Casa Grande Domes were built in 1983 by a company called Intercon Technology. They manufactured circuit boards for computers and watches. In 1982, Patricia Zebb, who was the owner of Intercon, announced plans to relocate the company from its headquarters in California to the 134-acre site in Casa Grande, Arizona. The unusual shape and composition of the structure was chosen for its relatively low cost, its speedy construction time, and efficient insulation. Each structure took approximately 6 weeks to build and cost about $150,000 a piece. Can you believe that, Jory?
Wow. That's wow.
I sent Jeremy some pictures of it being built. You guys, Jeremy, are you putting those up? So take a look at this because as it's being built, there isn't a creepy feeling. They're lovely, and it's not how it turned out. Construction went like this. After the foundations were complete, giant balloons were mounted onto them. Think back into the 3rd grade when we had to blow up a balloon and then put that, what is that sticky paper, you ripped up shreds of newspaper. What is that called? Paper mache?
Mm-hmm.
And you would put it over the balloon, it would harden, and you'd pop the balloon and make a face.
Yeah.
Well, that is the construction of these domes. I wonder why they didn't last very long. So they would stick a giant balloon into them, and they would put rebar in them, which looked like a giant half-circle skeleton. They would spray it with a coating of polyurethane foam on the outside of every balloon, and then they would do a thin section of concrete. My southern came out right then. A thin section of concrete, and then they would do another insulation, and then do another concrete, and then after that dried, they would pop the balloon, and ta-da! You have a dome. The project was halted, unfinished, in 1983 when Intercom Technologies defaulted on their loan and the Bank of California assumed ownership. Since 1983, the domes have been abandoned, a site known for sightings and vandalism. The unique shape of the domes are said to allow large amounts of energy to be harnessed, opening portals to the other side. There have been several first-hand accounts of hearing strange voices and seeing dark shadows at the domes. Jory, my love, you're very loud.
What do you mean?
Is that you I can hear in the background?
I'm not doing anything.
Okay. One of the buildings is shaped like a flying saucer, which I think is one of the most unique aspects of this place. And the other three are as if the spheres were joined together and they look like huge concrete caterpillars. There is a website called Weird USA, and they wrote something about it, and it says this. Once the sun disappeared, the whole scene grew absolutely unsettling. I was there long enough before dusk to determine that there was no one else around, but in the dark, the noises I heard were no longer just my own. No one could have arrived at this location without me seeing them drive up in a car. Yet, there was something definitely moving around me, and it didn't sound like a small desert creature. And that is really the experience of everybody who goes out to the domes. In an article in the Casa Grande newspaper, help me, Jory, what's the name of the Casa Grande newspaper?
The Dispatch?
Yes, thank you. I've been gone long enough, thank Jesus, that I don't remember it. A former satanic priest turned Christian minister, as they do, is on a mission to save souls. His name is Jesus Gonzalez. I think Jeremy is putting his picture up. He's mostly blind now. Do you have his picture, Jeremy? Okay. This is his story and his relationship to the domes. When he was 13 years old, he sat in the back of a pickup truck and witnessed firsthand satanic rituals at the Casa Grande Domes. He now shares the story of his former life as a satanic priest to help others find their way to God. In the 1990s, Gonzalez said that he was involved in a Luciferian group that took part in satanic and vampire rituals and practices at the domes. They met almost exclusively at the Casa Grande Domes. There were 6 groups that met out there at the same time. They were all a little bit different. Some of the groups are still around to this day. He runs across evidence of their practices whenever he visits the domes. The last time I was there, there was a little altar with a candle and a dead chicken that was sacrificed. He said he kicked the altar over. His companion and guide, Lynette Hale, helps him navigate through the rubble at the domes, often pointing out the telltale signs of ritualistic worship. In some spots, you can still see the tinted ground from the blood of the animals. He said that the first visit to a ritual was when he was 13 years old, and he was instantly hooked. He spent the next decade of his life immersed in satanic rituals and worship. By the time he was a young adult, he was leading the rituals and practicing satanic priesthood in the domes. For me, it was a way to release my aggression and explore my darker spiritual side. Gonzalez said, I liked that it was unusual and not normal. Most meetings followed the same routine. There were readings, there was chants, there was oftentimes animal sacrifices, usually chickens, but they also used coyotes and dogs and cats or small birds, he says. Attendees sometimes drank the blood of the animals. Gonzalez said that he and his group of followers in the Luciferian belief that Lucifer is not the devil, but a liberating spirit or guiding angel. We were all fascinated with vampires. I was so deep into it, at one meeting I saw a man stab himself with a knife, and they just let him bleed, which is scary. Rumors that the land is cursed and haunted by a shadowy figure give the facility added appeal to the Satanists. Gonzalez said that he has seen the shadowy figure. He's heard tales of the figure talking to people, although it has never spoken to him, and he believes it is one of the devil's minions. So, that is the Casa Grande Domes. And if, let's see, who is on here right now? If Brian comes on, I think it would be good to see if he would go out and do a ghost hunt there. That would be fun. Although I have to warn you, even though even the newspapers and the news talk about this place, it is privately owned land, and you can be arrested, although I've never, ever heard of anybody being arrested going out there. Although I have found out firsthand almost a year ago that people don't like it when you trespass on their land to see a famous haunted building, and the sheriff might call you.
Diabolical Witness wants you to know he's already looking at airfare.
Oh, thank you. That would be now, Diabolical Witness. Jory lives there, and I have a gut feeling that he would go. So if you guys do go there, understand that it does say no trespassing, although it has never stopped anybody before.
Particularly me.
Yes, particularly Jory. And I myself am going to try and refrain from trespassing again. Right, Sheriff? Okay. Anyway, what would you like to say about this particular place, Jory?
Well, apparently I'm going and I have no choice.
Oh, okay, good. Well, that's not scary.
Right. Well, I want to throw this out there.
Go ahead.
I haven't checked myself. It's been a little while since I've been out there. I know for sure 100% one of the domes has crumbled. It's gone.
Yes, I have a picture of that.
And the rest of it is supposed to already be demolished, but everybody keeps bouncing back and forth on whether or not it has been. When I was out there with the Ghost Adventures team, they made me sign waivers because it's now private property, stating that if any of the buildings were to crumble on me, it was not the fault of the property owners. So keeping in mind, this place is very fragile. And if they haven't been bulldozed yet, they, by their own admission, will crumble at any time.
And can I add to that?
Huh?
I wrote this story in April of 2016, about 6 weeks after I started this channel. And I still, to this day, have people comment to me probably once a month. And somebody will say, the domes have been destroyed. And then somebody will respond to them and say, I was just out there yesterday. They're not destroyed. So I know that the person who owns the property has been fined for not destroying them. So, and that was even as of June of 2018. So I think they're still there. By the way, I don't think it matters if they're there, because I think that the property itself, by now, having had not just rumors of animal sacrifices or satanic worshiping, full-on documented cases of this happening. Oh, sorry, Alexa wanted to answer that for some reason. So the property alone, that particular piece of the property, and they have foundations of other buildings that were not ever built on. I think just going there in general is going to be something you don't forget. A lot of people try and blame it on the homeless people who sometimes go out there. However, most accounts will tell you that when they were out there was no homeless people there at the time, that they saw and heard these things with no explanation, and that includes Ghost Adventures, and I'm a skeptic. I like to see things with my own eyes. I can tell you all day the things that I've experienced, and it doesn't surprise me if you don't say, I like to see that with my own eyes. I am that type of person as well. But that episode of Ghost Adventures was, in my opinion, and I don't really watch it because I'm so skeptical, was the best episode of evidence caught on film that I've seen from them. So if you guys would like to check that out on YouTube, I suggest you do. I have also written a story about the Casa Grande Domes. Like I said, if you would like to listen to that, I'll have Maya put the link up to that and kind of give you a feel of it. There's been reports of missing people out there. I read that there was recently a dead body found out in that area of a young man. So, yes, beware when you go out. Okay, Jory, lay it on us.
Okay. So I just want to kind of set the tone of what this place really kind of feels like. So the town I live in, Casa Grande, is in between Phoenix and Tucson. It's about roughly an hour either north or south to either town. So while the town itself is kind of big, it's still kind of a small, in the middle of nowhere desert town.
What do you think the population is there now? 50,000?
It's a little bit bigger than that.
It is. I know when we moved there, it was like 20,000.
When we first moved here, this town was podunk. It still technically is, but the city has done a lot to kind of. They're trying to essentially be the next big city. They're trying to bring a lot of commercial business here. They're trying to open the Disneyland version of a water park out here, and like there's just a lot that's going on that's supposed to turn Casa Grande into another big Arizona city.
And by the way, if you noticed, Jory and I call it two different things. I call it Casa Grande. I'd say it the Spanish way. Jory refers to it as Casa Grande, which is sort of the local native way to say it. There's even a news broadcast talking about where they debate what the name of this town is. So either way that we're saying it is correct. Just in case you were thinking, why aren't they calling it the same thing?
Yeah, we locally all just kind of call it Casa Grande. If you go by the Spanish way of saying it, yeah, Casa Grande. But
Casa Grande, because it means the big house.
Yeah. But anyway, so we are a desert community that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by farmland and Indian reservations. So once you're kind of out of city limits, you're out in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the domes are. You cross what is I-8, which will, if you get on that road, it takes you to San Diego. Beautiful San Diego.
What the hell was that?
I love me some San Diego.
Okay.
I can't help it. But you cross over the I-8, you leave city limits, and you go out to the middle of the desert, and it starts to butt up against Indian reservation. So you're in between the city and Indian reservation in the middle of the desert, and you got these creepy abandoned dome-like structures. One of them looks like a freaking UFO. And now, when you walk up to these structures, I'm trying to remember, I think it's Friday the 13th sound effects, where, you know, when Jason Voorhees walks up to you and it's got that creepy, that's what these domes sound like, because they echo your footsteps. Who's eating?
Sorry, it's a pickle.
Put yourself on mute, woman. I'm talking.
I'll stop now.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
But this pickle break brought to you by Exit Light. Please go out and buy the necrophiliac t-shirt. For $9.99, you too can be a necrophiliac.
Hey, did you just call me a necrophiliac?
It's our line. We've got the chupacabra. We're gonna probably have the peacock feather. We gotta have a necrophiliac line. probably a necrophiliac cereal down the road.
Oh, gross!
With marshmallows.
It's best with cold milk.
Anyway, so the domes reverberate with your footsteps, so it already, just walking into it, you get creeped out because you hear this echo effect, and your voice echoes when you talk. It's at night. It's just very creepy, and it's black. You can't see anything unless it's a full moon outside. So when I very first heard of these, we had just moved to Casa Grande. I think I was maybe 17.
Yep.
About 17.
You just 16? You were 16. Yeah.
16. Okay. Yeah. 16, 17. Just that window of time. And at that time, like we said before, there wasn't a whole lot to do here in this town. So when I started making friends, the thing to do outside of cruising down Main Street all night was to go to the domes. And my friends were like, "Oh, it's going to be really creepy. They do satanic rituals out there. My brother saw a satanic ritual happening out there." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, just thinking it's a small town. People have nothing better to do. So I really didn't read much into it. I was like, "All right, whatever, take me out there." And that kind of began this weird history between me and the domes that lasted. I haven't been out there since 2016, I think, when I helped with the ghost. Oh, I went out there for my YouTube channel. We did a behind the scenes domes extravaganza video. So about 2016 was the last time I was out there, but it created these memories. I've always, throughout my entire life, for as long as I can remember, I've always had these haunted happenings happen to me. But the domes are unique in a sense that virtually every time I've gone out there, I've had something happen to me that you can't write off as oh, did I really just see that? Or wow, did I really just hear that? No, you really did see that. You really did hear that. And there's multiple witnesses there with you who all heard and saw the exact same thing. So this place is, to me, I've been to a lot of not just unheard of haunted places, but very popular haunted places. I've been to the Stanley Hotel. I've been to the Queen Mary. Mm-hmm. I've been to
New Orleans.
I've been to New Orleans. I've been to the Whaley House in San Diego. Places that are publicly known to be haunted and have nothing happen to me. Mm-hmm. Casa Grande Domes, which is just in the past few years has started gaining steam. I've had something happen to me every single time. So for those of you out there who are looking for a good scare, and I will say this for anybody listening, if you manage to get permission, then go check out the domes because it will creep you out. So,
and for the record, the person that owns this land is actually a corporation, so they're not actually living out there. Not that I would encourage anybody to do anything illegal.
No, I'm not encouraging it either. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
No.
So
I just wouldn't. That's all I'm going to say.
So, the main ghost story that everybody across the board talks about is how they see one particular shadow figure at these domes. And it's not just I don't want to say regular, but it's not a normal shadow figure. It's an extremely tall shadow figure, like Bigfoot tall. Not only that, but it's been seen walking on top of the domes. And these are, I would probably say 15 feet high, give or take. My math and my measurements probably aren't that great, but about 15 feet high, and you see this tall shadow figure walking across them. In my experience, I have seen shadow figures out there, and I will touch on that in a little bit. But I have seen so much more, and I've heard so much more. And I will start with, I've told this story, I think, on this channel before. My friend and I, we were hanging out at another friend's house one night, and it was a hot summer night, and we were bored. And this particular friend of mine is obsessed with the domes. As a matter of fact, to this day, he still calls me and says, "Hey, when are we going to go ghost hunt the domes again?" But he was like, "Hey, let's go check out the domes, just you and me." Now, for the most part, almost every time I've gone out to the domes has been with big groups of people. So this was one of the very few times I've ever gone out there where it's just me and one other person. And I was like, okay, let's go. So we went to a local drugstore. We got some flashlights, and we drove out to the domes. We pulled out into the desert across the street, because the area where the domes are, it's no longer a paved road. It's a dirt road. It's middle of nowhere. But cars still go up and down this road, because about maybe a mile away are people who live in that area. So cars are still going up and down this road. Cops definitely like to go out there to make sure nothing's going on. So we kind of parked the car, hid it behind some shrubbery, got our flashlights out, and the first thing I noticed was that it was super windy outside. When we left the house, no wind, super hot. We get out there, it's windy, I'm freezing cold, I can barely walk to get to the domes because the wind is going against me. We cross the street, and we can see the domes, and there's nothing going on. It's just no movement, no sounds outside of the wind. We get onto the property. Now you have to cross a barbed wire fence to get onto the property. This portion of the fence was destroyed, so it was, we just walk over the wire. And we're barely on the property. We're not even on the concrete slabs. And
sorry, my backup moderator got a phone call from my husband, no less.
Is that the Casa Grande Police Department making sure we're not advertising? Hey, come check out the domes.
It was the sheriff again. Sorry.
You better not be telling those folks to go out to the domes. Just ruined the moment. I was getting to the good part.
Well, while you're taking a break, can I tell you that I read an account of a guy who went out to recently to the same area that you said you went through, where the fence was broken down. Mm-hmm. He said that the fence post was made into an upside down cross, and that there was a coyote head hanging off of it, and it said, "Do not enter."
This was recently?
Yeah.
Wow.
In June.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that certainly was not there in this story. So, we were on the property, but we were still on the dirt. We hadn't touched the car. And this white figure walks out of what my friend and I call the fire dome. And we call it the fire dome because on the inside, the entire inside of it is charcoal black from, I don't know if it's just years and years of people having fires in there, or if there's one big fire, but the whole inside and the concrete slabs are just charcoal black from fire. And it walks out from that dome and stops and looks at us. And we stop, and we originally think to ourselves, oh, there's somebody already out here. We should probably leave. But I noticed that this white figure, the light coming from it isn't a flashlight. The light coming from it is itself. It's a luminescent form. So I asked my friend, I'm like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? That's not a person with a flashlight. That is a light. That's a luminescent figure. And he says, I see it. And we're staring at this thing. and the wind just starts going crazy and whipping around us. Like, I don't know how many of you are familiar with monsoons, but in the desert we get hurricane-like winds. We call them monsoons. And it felt like that was coming through. And we're just mesmerized. Like, we were barely on the property. This figure walks out giving off its own light. And then to my right, in my peripherals, I can see a dark figure walking towards me. And I'm ignoring it at first because I'm just amazed at seeing this luminescent white figure. And after a while, this black figure has gotten close enough for me to be like, okay, this is getting uncomfortable. It's not moving like a human being. It's not giving the telltale signs of it being a human being. I told my friend, we have to go. It's time to go. Mm-hmm. And we didn't walk, we ran. We got back in his car and we drove back to our other friend's house. And upon getting out of the car, there was no wind. It was back to being stifling hot. And we went inside and we didn't say a word about what happened to us that night. We were just, it was flabbergasting. Like, we were barely there. We literally just crossed the barbed wire fence into the property line, and we already had something happen to us. We couldn't even go into the domes to experience something. Well, all we had to do was touch the property. It was crazy.
So what do you think it was?
I honestly couldn't tell you. Years prior, there was a big group of us out there, and a former friend of ours was alone by himself in that exact same dome, while the rest of us were in different domes, and we were all trying to communicate and do our version of ghost hunting. And I was about 2 domes away from him, and I heard a scream. And I ran outside, and all I can see was him running off the property. And all of us got together and like, what's going on? We're like, well, what happened to him? And somebody that was nearby him said, he said he saw something. So once he calmed down, he was on the other side of the road where we were parking our cars. Like, that's how far away he ran from the domes. We got over to him, and once he calmed down and stopped shaking and stopped having what looked like a panic attack, he said that when he was in the dome by himself asking questions, he saw a light appear behind him, and when he turned, he saw a luminescent figure, and he didn't hesitate. He got the hell out of there. Like, as soon as he clicked in his brain what it was, he was gone, and he screamed. So this was years prior, and he saw a luminescent figure.
Jeremy, did you put the picture up of that luminescent figure walking out of the dome? Yeah, I actually, one of the pictures I gave Jeremy was that dark figure surrounded by light to have him put up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know there was a picture.
Well, I don't think it's I think it's a recreated picture.
Oh.
Okay. Of what people say he looks like.
Okay. I didn't even know there was I didn't know there was even a recreated picture.
Yeah. So you're not the only one who's had experienced the same thing.
Yeah, it was I can tell you this. I can't speak for our former friend, but I can speak for me. The luminescent figure coming out of the dome, it startled me, but it didn't scare me. Now, the black figure to my right that was approaching me scared me, but the white luminescent figure was more of a startled, like, oh, whoa, like it caught you off guard, kind of a startle.
Right.
But it didn't scare me. I don't know if it was because I was just used to the domes, or it was just the vibe it gave off, but I wasn't scared of it.
Mm-hmm.
He was very clearly scared of it.
I think I would probably be scared of it.
I think in his proximity of being, because we were still a good distance away from the domes when we saw the apparition, so it wasn't like it was right in our faces. It was a good several feet away from us. It literally appeared right behind him. I probably would have done the exact same thing. I probably would have hightailed it out of there.
And didn't they see a dark figure at the Ghost Adventures? I feel like they saw a dark figure at the Ghost Adventures.
I do believe it's been a while since I've watched the episode. The biggest thing I remember them experiencing was something beating on their RV while they were watching a live feed.
Yeah, that was my favorite part.
That's the biggest thing I remember.
Talk about what Mike saw on top of the domes? Uncle Mike, everybody, he's back. Are you going to include that in what you're talking about?
You'll have to refresh my memory on that one.
My brother, Uncle Mike, saw a black figure on top of the domes, jumping from dome to dome.
Oh, that's right.
The Ghost Adventure crew mentioned the same thing, that I can't remember if they had seen it or that they were speaking to somebody who had also seen that exact same thing happen.
I remember him telling me that. I remember. Yeah, we were out there for a quote unquote investigation.
Right. And it was too fast, too quick, and too impossible for it to have been a human to jump from dome to dome the way that it did. And he witnessed it. And, normally he's not I wouldn't use him as a character witness in anybody's trial. But, considering that since then I've heard plenty of other stories that actually collaborate that story of seeing the same thing, that I'm assuming that he must have seen it because he was legitimately afraid.
Yeah, and the amazing thing is, so while they are clustered together, it would take an extremely talented human being to jump across these domes. And even if you had that ability, even if you did, they are crumbling buildings. You would probably fall through at least one of them, guaranteed. So for him to witness this black figure not only jumping across the domes, but not falling through the buildings.
Right.
So I forgot.
Is it solid?
That experience.
Yeah, he did. Because Mike would go out with you guys all the time. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I didn't go out. First off, I thought you meant, I don't even know why. I thought you meant they were like sand domes. I don't know why. But also, I never wanted to run into any desert creatures in the dark because they were bad enough in the daytime.
Well, that's the funny thing is, and I don't know if it's because of the area, at least I never ran into anything that was considered an animal. Never saw coyotes, never saw snakes, never saw, like, the only bugs I saw were the ones that flew. Like, even the ones on the ground you never saw.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you can hear coyotes. I mean, there are some sounds you can attribute to desert wildlife. You could hear coyotes in the background.
Right.
You can hear javelinas. But as far as seeing them on property, no way.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. That's also strange.
Yeah. I mean, it could be attributed to the human activity in the area, but at the same time, if there's only one or two of you, I don't see many coyotes being afraid of that. You can at least see them running away from you if they're scared of you. But I never, ever saw animal activity.
The thing about that was the coyotes out there didn't seem to be that particularly afraid of humans, because we, as I've said in my haunted house stories of Casa Grande, we're building our house from scratch, from the ground up. And it was a planned community. It was a huge neighborhood, and the coyotes would always come out.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we were all walking around trying to see our houses, at night.
Mm-hmm.
Because, all right, I'm not admitting to crimes, and I don't think it's a crime if it's your own house, but you could get into your house with a credit card. And see the progress they'd made. Uh-huh. And by the way, my husband was building our house, so, but the coyotes would come, and I just walk right up to the property. We could hear them. though, so I don't think that they would be particularly afraid of coming to two people out. They saw people all the time out there.
Right.
So I don't think they would be afraid of seeing humans out there, considering that it was something that they were probably used to.
Mm-hmm.
And they never really seem to be. A few days ago, Joshua was walking across the street with my Labrador Retriever, and there's a coyote out there who did not give two F's that Josh was out there with a Labrador Retriever. I think that maybe it's possible that there's another reason they don't go. Maybe they just get that bad vibe, you know?
It's possible. The domes are not terribly far away from where people live, but it is far enough to where in a normal situation, coyotes would, I believe, walk through that area no problem. But I never saw them. You can hear them out in the distance, but in that particular area, never saw them. And it's funny that you mentioned this tall black figure on the roof, because I remember it was me, and I remember it was my old friend Chris, and there might have been a third person with us. We were out there during the daytime. Can't remember why. But I think I was on the phone, or I was walking away from them, and I didn't have anything happen to me. I was just kind of walking the property. But as we were getting ready to leave, my friend Chris was like, I saw this really tall black, and this was during the day, and it was transitioning to night, but the sun was still up. Right. And he remembers seeing a very tall black figure on one of the domes for a split second, and then when he kind of blinked his eyes to make sure you see what he was seeing, it was gone. And you telling the story about Uncle Mike seeing the jumping figure reminded me of that story, how I think we just wanted to see if anything would happen during the day, which up to that point, nothing happened. It was very calm, no noises, no nothing. But he did be like, yeah, I could have sworn I saw this really, really tall guy standing on one of the domes. And when I blinked, he was gone.
Diabolical witnesses. Why do I always do that? Witnesses. Diabolical witness. I always go diabolical witness says, and it just blends together. Says, if you are alone or walk with a limp, they will attack. Well, I won't do that.
Good
idea. Yeah. Yeah, I think that they stand at a certain distance. And if there's coyotes being used as animal sacrifices, does that mean they go out somehow and catch them, or I don't even want to know. That's so sad.
I don't know if they were using coyotes as animal sacrifices.
Well, I did read that they said that they did find, and I actually saw pictures
of coyotes
of dead coyotes out there, and not dead in like a normal way, like they're cut open in the middle and stuff.
Okay.
Which, I guess could be from other coyotes, I suppose. But it was in regards to the haunting and the animal sacrifices. So,
well,
rabbits as well.
I know dead bodies aren't that uncommon because I'll get into it a little bit later, but there was a dead coyote body used in the filming of Ghost Adventures. So it's not uncommon out there for that to happen, I guess. But anyways, so another thing that happened actually didn't happen specifically at the domes. It was on the way to the domes, and I've told this story also. A group of us were heading out to the domes, and we were all in separate vehicles, and I was in a vehicle with a friend of mine at the time, and we were driving down the dirt road portion of it, so we were getting pretty close, and we didn't have the radio on. Her and I were just talking about whatever we were talking about, and this part is always like funny to explain, but like every time like a ghost talks in a movie, it has this weird echoey, breathy effect. that seems to come from nowhere. It came out like that. It was this voice that said, it was either get out or go away. I think it was go away. And it seemed to come in from between the two of us. And it had that otherworldly echo from nowhere effect. And prior to that happening to me, I always wondered, like, how come ghost voices in the movies always sound like that? Like, that's such a Hollywood thing to do. And then ironically, it actually came out that way. And
really?
she hit her brakes hard, and we fishtailed on that dirt road. And when we came to a complete stop, the look in her eyes were just, she was pale, and she was like, "Did you hear that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." And she goes, "What did you hear?" And I said, "I heard go away." And she was like, "I did too." So we drove, everybody had been in front of us. We were the last to arrive. We pull up to the property. We didn't even open the doors. We rolled down the windows, stuck our heads out, and said, "We're not staying. You guys do whatever you want. We're leaving." We rolled the windows back up, and we left them. We left the property. We took off. We didn't even. Nope. If something was powerful enough before we even reached the domes to tell us to go away, we were not going to stay there that night. And we didn't. We left. I think we ended up going to McDonald's and getting McFlurries or something.
Wow.
And I've never experienced that before or since. I've experienced ghostly voices, but nothing of that Hollywood-esque type of whispery, otherworldly echo from nowhere voice. It was crazy.
That is weird.
Yeah, and it ranks up there in experiences where I physically have seen apparitions. I have seen things happen that science cannot explain. But that's probably my top 5 experiences I've ever had, in just the sense of how unique it is. To have direct communication that both of us heard in the voice that it came through was astounding. It was awesome. I mean, in retrospect, it was awesome, but at the time, it scared the balls out of me. And yeah, we couldn't stay. We were like, "Nope, you guys are on your own." And we didn't talk about it with them until the next day, hoping that they were still alive.
Nice.
Hey, you guys still alive? Oh man, we heard this voice that told us to go away.
Hey, if a voice tells you to go away, or there's an upside down cross that says "Do not enter" with a dead coyote's head, just don't.
You go with the gut feeling on that one.
Yeah. Just
I'm
maybe
gonna go
turn
ahead and
around.
choose. I'm gonna choose to live today. I think I'm gonna do that. Door number 1 is to live, and door number 2 is to die. I'm choosing number 1.
Blue pill or red pill?
Which one keeps me alive and I can go home? Okay, I'll take that pill.
Yeah.
Okay, so another experience I had was once again a group of us were going out to investigate, and this time we took a camera with us, and this was still like early 2000s, so it was still like a bulky kind of camera, home camera.
Hey, Jory.
Yeah.
Your brother wrote, "I'ma choose to not get dragged to hell."
I'ma choose not. Well, you live with mom, so you're already there, pal.
Oh, snap. Wow. There went your inheritance. Good. Congratulations. There went your $0. I was at least going to leave you a letter, but now you're not even getting that.
That's okay. I would probably need brimstone to decipher it.
Oh my! Wow. Do you guys see what I put up with here?
Can someone get the witchcraft book? I can't figure out Mom's letter.
Read it out loud, though, 3 times.
And pour cow's blood on it while you're done.
Yeah. Light a candle, baby.
Okay, so yeah, we took a camcorder out with us so we could try and capture visual evidence. It was I think it was me, Uncle Mike, the Berg family, who were very close to me, and their mom and their dad. It was quite a big group, and it's ironic that a lot of the stories happened to me either prior to or just barely getting on property. But once again, we were just barely there, and we were walking up to, once again, what we call the fire dome. And I was in front. And just before I touched the concrete slab to enter the fire dome, I hear footsteps coming around the fire dome from my left-hand side. And so I said, hey, guys, hold on real quick. And they all stop. So everybody at this point has stopped. Nobody's walking, and I can still hear the footprints. I think, man, there's somebody else here. This is the middle of nowhere. We're butting up against the Indian reservation. A lot of people come out here to do a lot of different things. It's, you kind of put yourself on guard. So we decide to sit there and wait to see who's walking towards us. And the footprints get close enough to me to where I should start seeing a physical body walking towards me, and there's no physical body. And it's getting closer. And at this point, I have a flashlight pointed in that direction. Everybody's flashlights are pointed in that direction. The lights combined are strong enough to make it look like a truck's headlights are shining on the domes at that point. And we don't see a single person, and the footsteps get close enough to me where somebody could reach out and shake my hand. And I said, nope. And I turned around and I hoofed it out. I hoofed it out of there. And
why are you always running away?
Oh, I don't know, Mom. Something that's not physically there walked up to me.
Punch it.
There's nothing there. What am I going to punch? Cold air?
See, diabolical witness, you need to go with him so that somebody can hold him down and you guys can do a spirit box.
I did my best Brian from Ghost Hunters impersonation. Dude, run.
Yeah, all your stories have a common denominator here. Run.
Well, in every single instance, I think first of all, I'm not a professional. I'm not a professional, if you want to call it professional. I'm not a professional paranormal investigator. Let's just get that out of the way. It's just an interest that I've had my entire life. So I'm not held to these rules and regulations of just suck it up, man. You got to get the evidence. So, the camera footage actually is my friend Matt trying to keep up to me, and all you can see is me holding my because I was wearing cargo shorts at the time, and it was holding my wallet, my phone, and my keys. So I'm holding my cargo shorts so I don't lose anything. And me just hoofing it to the car. I actually turned around. We parked on the side of the road this time, so I didn't have to cross the road. I turned around, and everybody except for Matt, who followed me with the camera, were still all the way back at the dome, wondering what the hell just happened. And this wall of dust from me running as hard as I could.
Oh my gosh.
And everybody was like, what happened? I'm like, didn't you not see that? Somebody that wasn't there just walked up to me.
Oh my gosh.
I gathered the courage to go back, and we stayed the rest of the night kind of looking around. But that it caught me off guard because once again, it was phenomena that happened immediately. I hadn't even walked into a dome yet, and something walked up to me.
I think that you're the kind of person who, I think there are people who are open obviously we've talked about this before, to having these experiences. And clearly in this area, you are definitely open to having this experience. And by the way, Brian sent me an email. He's going to be there on October 2nd.
In Casa Grande?
Yeah, so I forwarded the email to you because he's going to need your help.
Let me see if I got it.
Okay. Anyway, while Jory is doing that out of pure unadulterated excitement, I think that, you know, people are drawn out to this area, and so many people have said that they have had experiences there. And the thing is all of their experiences, for the most part, are very, very similar, which I've said oftentimes, when complete strangers have very similar experiences, I tend to believe that it is something that is happening. Because if you're not comparing stories, a group of people didn't go out there and then start putting stories together and come up with a story. They're complete strangers, different groups of people. They're even Ghost Adventures having similar stories to what the locals have says to me that it is something. And the force out there, the power out there, and considering that how many satanic rituals were held out there on a regular basis. I mean, that former satanic priest saying that 6 other groups were out there at the same time he was doing the exact same things they were. I think that some things attract that type of energy. And once that type of energy has been attracted, I feel as though even if the domes are torn down, it's not going to matter. The same with the demon house. Tearing the demon house down, in my opinion, is not going to affect what happens when somebody builds a new house on that piece of land, if they ever do. The people still go to the demon house to sit on that slab and perform satanic rituals and such. I think that land holds memory, holds the energy. And I think that this is one of those places that holds the energy. So what are you doing, Jor?
I would agree with you. I have not personally witnessed any of the occult activities that happen out there, but you can see the evidence of it.
Yeah.
You can tell that people have been out there doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And I will say that Ghost Adventures wasn't the only TV show that went out there and did an investigation.
Oh, yeah.
Jack Osborne used to host a show called Haunted Highway, where him and 3 other people would break off into 2 groups of 2. One would investigate one location and then return feedback to Jack, and then Jack and whoever he was investigating with would investigate a place and gather information, so on and so forth. So Jack Osborne and his partner investigated the Casa Grande Domes in an episode of their show, and I thought they caught great evidence.
Right.
They caught a person walking out of the same dome that Jack Osborne had been in, and this was on a infrared camera, who did not have body heat. It was a blue figure. So this person didn't give off any warm signature whatsoever. Caught it on camera. They also set up sensors. I'm trying to remember the situation. I think they set up this one area where that was said that people would see this shadow figure walking around. And they put a camera in the middle of the sensors, so they would be able to see, I think it was like a 360 view of anybody around the motion sensors. Something was able to get through the motion sensors and knock the camera down.
Really?
Without the motion sensors going off. But because they found the sleeping bag of a homeless person on the property, despite the evidence they caught, they debunked it, claiming, well, homeless people sleep out here, which I will say for the record, I can't attest for now. But in the previous times I have been to the domes, yes, there has been evidence of homeless people sleeping at the domes. But I have never encountered homeless people there. Whether or not they saw us coming and they hid in the desert, or if they were at the shelter that night, or whatever they do, I never encountered anybody that was homeless there. But I will say, yes, there are homeless people that do tend to sleep out there.
Well, I know, obviously, having lived there a lot, probably almost everybody I know, especially those who have been raised out there. A lot of people going out there, and they have never encountered the homeless people when they went out there too. So I don't know how that works. And Mad Meerkat wants to know if any of the construction workers were killed in accidents when the domes were built. Well, let me tell you something about that, Steve. Not that I know of, because literally until recently, when the Dispatch the local newspaper did a story about the domes, because it was becoming a big story because they wanted them to be demolished. Until they did that story, when I want to say it was in the last year, there had never been pictures published of the domes being built. In that article, there was 2 pictures of the buildings being built, and I gave them to Jeremy, so they're probably being put up right now. And they didn't mention anything about anybody being hurt or anybody being killed. But again, we had never heard of anything about the domes even being built. We knew that there was a microchip company that had intended to use it as their office space, which, for the record, where they had it, and the fact that they have 135 acres, which is weird because it doesn't feel like that much, but and where they had it, the way they designed it is so bizarre that I don't like the for instance, the one dome that is actually the shape of a UFO. It was just strange to people that they were actually building them to look like that, to be a factory. They do have tracks in the ones that look like caterpillars. They do have tracks that are similar to, well, if you were going to be pushing something, rolling something down from one end of the dome to the other, they do have tracks in there. So I mean, it does look like they had intended to have some sort of a production something where they had to move things through. But in reality, their buildings in California were not that shape. They did start a company to build dome-shaped houses, and that failed. They did build a dome church that is in, I can't think of where the Superstition Mountains in Arizona, which is weird, really, that they built it in Superstition Mountains. A dome church, a dome building that's currently being used as a church. But there's very, very little information on the company or it being built. So I wish I could help you there. But I don't know. It is absolutely possible, especially considering the way these buildings were built. I did read an article that said that one of the people involved in the building said that he was surprised that they've lasted as long as they had because they used very thin rebar as a skeleton. There wasn't much holding the weight up. There was, like I said, insulation and concrete. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were things that happened there, accidents. That just doesn't seem like a brilliant way to build a building, especially in the desert where the heat is going to pound on that and it crumbles concrete as it is. So I don't know. I can't give you the answer to that, but
I will kind of add to that in that with the way you described that the buildings were made, I would have to lean towards no in answering Mad Meerkat's question, just because there was, I mean, outside of an extreme accident, I can't see anybody put in a position where a death would be possible. Because these buildings are tall, but they're not, I mean, you can climb them. They're easy to climb. I just can't see, unless there was an extreme accident where somebody tripped and fell into the rebar or a power tool, somebody passing away on site. And I think if somebody did, there would probably be some kind of a newspaper article that you could find online, which I'm assuming you didn't see anything like that when you did your history research, Mom.
No, I didn't. There's very little actually written, aside from the fact that they were excited that it was coming to Casa Grande, because it was going to bring several jobs. I mean, the site isn't finished. They have a lot of area there, obviously, to build onto. And I did see what the model was supposed to look like, which was the area all around it was going to be paid for parking and all that stuff. It's really interesting to see what it intended to be like and what it is today. I don't think they could have imagined that what they were building was going to be used for what it ended up being used for, which was, horrifying. Killing animals out there, drinking animal blood. I mean, who would imagine that, right?
And another thing to keep in mind too that might contribute to the hauntings outside of the occult practices that were happening out there is, so where I live, the next town over is a town called Coolidge, and they have what's known as the Casa Grande ruins. And a very, very long time ago, I'm trying to remember their name.
I'll look it up.
Thank you. But there were Native Americans that lived on that land that is now broken up into several sections of land.
And they disappeared.
But they disappeared. But their structure remains, and it's one of the very few rare Native American structures that are still up to this day. And they estimate that it was constructed, I believe, in the 1500s.
1450.
1450. Okay. So this area is historically known to have had plenty of Native American history. As a matter of fact, the domes are really from the domes to get to the ruins themselves, and it's more of like a community. It's like a community structure. Like you could just see this structure and imagine like Native Americans from all over the parts of, I guess, what we would call today like Pinal County, coming to meet here and to trade and to barter and to do whatever. From the Casa Grande Domes to that would be like maybe a 30-minute drive. So,
well, and that's why it's called the Big House.
Right. So you can also figure in that, not only would that land be saturated with the dark occult rituals from however many years, but it also was Native American land. Yes. That probably had a lot, or it probably had, natives that lived on it way before the Spaniards came through here. So just keep.
I'm trying to find the name of that culture, but they are said to be the ancestors of the O'odham, the Hopi, and the Zuni Indians. And that they called this area because the house stands, but it was a large area, a large meeting and trading area that is completely encompassed the area around the big house. And so it was called the Hohokam, which is, well, in Casa Grande, there's this area called the Hohokam, and what it is like, it's a sort of a slopey hill, it's like a half a bowl shape. And everybody who lives in Casa Grande knows that you don't walk on this. It is strictly for the local Indian communities to have. They have meetings and celebrations and traditions that they do in this area, and they refer to this area, the big house, Casa Grande, as a hohokam too, a sacred area where they did the trading and where you were safe for other Indian tribes to come and meet up and etc. I'm trying to find the name, and like I said, that was from 1350.
And as a side note, speaking of this Indian structure, so right across the street from this is civilization. There's a Safeway.
Yeah, I hate that. I just hate that about how America works. Like right across the street from the Alamo, where 3,000 Mexican soldiers were buried, is a Ripley's, believe it or not. It's so crazy.
So I had to work in that Safeway on and off when I worked for Safeway. And I would hear stories all the time of how people, a former manager of mine literally saw a Native American riding a ghostly horse through the back room of the store.
No.
A lady who still works there to this day, she works in the back receiving product. She used to hang tags at night. And she would refuse to go to the back right of the area, which is where the dairy and the bakery is, because she went back there by herself one night to hang tags, and she saw the spirit of an Indian person sitting on the counter with the cash register.
Whoa.
So.
Well, I have found that they don't know what the name of they've been unable to find what the name of the original tribe there was, but that
I think they call them the Hohokam.
Yeah, they do call them. Well, they call what they said is the culture. They call the culture the Hohokam, and it is the lineage to what I had said before about the Hold on a second, I just messed up. So the lineage is Tracy. Hold on, I'm sorry, you guys. Is to at least the O'odham tribes, Hopi, Zuni, and 3 more. And then this original tribe just disappeared off the planet. And these are all in the same area, and the same lands that the domes encompass, where all these tribes lived, because not too far from the domes, like I said, is the Hohokam, where they did the where, like I said, one of the very first things when you move to Casa Grande is you never step on this. And it's right next to a park. It's right next to fairgrounds. It's right next to where they do the chili cook-off. You don't step here. And, okay, we won't. So it's very sacred. It's still very sacred. And I hate always saying, like, scary movies always go back and go, oh, this was Indian land. I've said that 100,000 times. But the fact of the matter is that throughout Indian history, and I am calling them Indians because from my experience living in Arizona, they did not refer to themselves as Native Americans. They spoke of themselves as Indians. So, we know plenty of people native to there, and so I'm calling them what they wanted to be called. So if in other areas they were being called Native Americans and that's what they wanted to be called, then I'm not trying to offend anybody. But having been in this area for quite some time, I'm referring to this culture as what they refer to it. The land is very important to them and very sacred, and when you're building things on it, I think that, and their history and the violence that incurred, I think that you're going, like I said, I think land remembers.
Mm-hmm.
And then to have, what's such sacrilege to the culture to be doing Indian sacrifices, not into what, Tracy? Animal sacrifices and satanic rituals, really goes against everything that those cultures would believe in.
Right. I agree. Which might, you know, what's funny is now that we've broken that down, that could be essentially what that white luminescent figure is.
Well, there's been lots of rumors that an Indian shaman put a curse on that land over there. I tried to look up what his name was and everything, but of course, these are tales that have been passed down forever, and I can't say if it's true or not. But it is said that an Indian shaman did put a curse on that land. And they cherish animals. They are spiritual people. So
interesting.
Yeah. Spilling blood like that on that land is just not something that they would believe in.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm just thinking, what if this luminescent figure is some form of a protection spirit that was originally there for the Indians, and now it's kind of there as a ward to people to go away. Like, what if the voice that we heard in the car was more of like a protection voice telling us to go away because it knew we were heading towards something that's evil? Same thing with that light coming out of the dome, as it was the first thing I saw before I saw the black apparition walking towards me.
Right.
Because it was what made us stop to begin with, was the white apparition.
Right. Mad Meerkat says, when a shopping center was built in Southampton a few years ago, a worker was killed in an accident, and a cloudy figure was seen by several workers who then refused to stay on the site after dark.
I know this keeps veering more and more off topic, but has Jay ever had anything like that happen to him on a work site?
A death?
Well, either that or just something that would be considered. I mean, obviously he didn't believe in ghosts until whatever he experienced with us in Casa Grande. But like, has he had like employees come up to him and be like, "Oh, I can't work here, boss. There's something about this I don't like," or because he's worked.
Yeah, on those lands.
A lot of different places all over the map in the United States. Mm-hmm. For him to not come across at least one location. And I know you told me about when he was working in Oklahoma City, and he was working on a building that was right next door to a building that the owner said was haunted.
Yes. Which is we're getting way off topic, but let me say this. He took me to the building he was working on. It was in downtown Oklahoma City. If you are in Oklahoma, you know where it was. And it was down the street from the Skirvin Hotel. And there was a warehouse right behind their building, and the owner came and told him that was just talking in general, and said that his building was haunted. And I didn't know it. Okay. So oddly enough, my husband didn't tell me that, but he took me there one night, and James Johnson says nothing paranormal on a job site.
I know. I just told him, step it up, man. Get a work site that's haunted.
But he took me to go see this building. And it was late at night, midnight or something. And we got out of his truck, and my attention was immediately drawn to this warehouse. And I said, this warehouse feels bad. And I started snapping pictures of the windows, because it felt to me like there was a presence in the windows. And when I do photography, I like to get very close up. I like to see things very close up that other people don't see, that I see as beautiful, whether that is nails, old rusty nails on a board, or the railroad ties, in the railroad, old rusty ones, electrical like old-fashioned electrical equipment, and I didn't get close up and take those kind of pictures of this building, which is something I always do. I stayed back and took pictures of the windows, and then as I was telling him how strange that building felt to me, he said, "Oh, well, let me tell you a story about that." So completely believe that building was haunted. Yeah. I'm sorry. And then, of course, in Oklahoma, that before Oklahoma became a state, it was called the Indian Territories. Mm-hmm. That's what it was referred to as. So, which this is going to sound horrible as an American. I just recently found out that that's what it was called, the Indian Territories.
I do believe, my history could be wrong, and if it is, I apologize, but doesn't the Trail of Tears go through Oklahoma too?
Yeah, I believe so. I know it goes through Mississippi because we went to the Raven House in Mississippi, and it was a mansion. It was used as a hospital during the Civil War, and the Trail of Tears went right straight through the property, and they're still to this day at the Raven House. If you guys are ever in Vicksburg, Mississippi, go to the Raven House. They to this day dig up bones, and a lot of them have saw marks on them from having to do amputations. A lot of them don't. This is a place where they rested during the Trail of Tears, and a lot of people didn't get back up. So they find a lot of skeletons of children and women, especially in particular. And and you can walk the property, and it's very solemn. You just walk. It's one of those places where you walk in and you know you should whisper.
Well, to have the Trail of Tears go through that property and it being a Civil War hospital, I can't imagine the trauma that site has seen. And just those two incidents alone, not just counting the entire history of that land.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. Like I said, it's one of those places you walk in and you know you should whisper. It feels like you should be reverent immediately before they even tell you that the Trail of Tears went through, before you even know that the house was used as a hospital, that there was, obviously documented cases of not just deaths in the hospital, but deaths on the property where a property owner shot and killed a soldier right there in front of the door where you walk in, where the wife of one of the property owners was, I believe 15. She gave birth to a baby and died in one of the rooms, where I caught a particularly interesting photograph. I should put that on someday. And is seen to be looking out of the windows. Windows are scary to me sometimes in old buildings because I feel like you could catch something there. And anyway, if you are ever in Vicksburg, it's Mississippi, right, JD? Is that right?
Yeah, that's where you went.
Okay. Go to the Raven House. You will not. You are somebody who loves paranormal things. You will not regret it. My husband, who, like we've told you before, was a complete skeptic and everything. There's this particular, I don't know why I'm so far off topic about the Casa Grande Domes, but there's this tiny, what we would consider probably big enough for a coat closet area, where the husband would get ready while the woman could dress in the bedroom. They weren't allowed to see each other. And the person giving our tour was saying, yeah, it was really weird. We had this thing where there was tapping on the window, and there was a man in here, and he tapped back. A few minutes later, there was tapping, and he tapped back, and it kept happening, and everybody came in and watched it. My husband had the exact same experience in that little room. And Scooby-Doo did out of there. Because, being somebody who is skeptical and gets even more scared than Jory running out of a building, it unsettles him. It deeply unsettles him when something supernatural happens. He left immediately. Although it wasn't interesting, it was, JD, what did you say? Yes. It was an interesting experience to have there. So I am not sponsored by them or being paid by them, but look up the Raven House. I've done a story on the Raven House. Look up that too. Anyway, back to the Casa Grande Dome story. I'm sorry.
Well, it was my own fault for veering off course. So let's steer this shit back into the right waters here.
Okay.
So the only thing I can really talk about more, I tried to dig back into my memory banks and really try and bring back more stories for everybody, but the biggest thing I can remember is just the shadow figures. Every time I went out there, no matter what visit, you could always see a shadow figure. Either the biggest thing that I always saw, and all of us ever saw, would be the typical, like, somebody peeking in through the doorway and checking you out. And then when you would notice it, they would move their head back like, oh crap, I got caught. That happened to me all the time. And it got to a point where I stopped thinking to myself, was it the trick of the light or blah, blah, blah? No. You see it enough, somebody was watching you, and then you caught them and they're like, oh crap, I got caught.
Right.
But yeah, they're not afraid to show themselves. They'll walk past the opening of one of the domes. You can catch them watching you almost all the time. If you stay really, really quiet, and if you do EVP sessions,
they watch you.
Yeah, they watch you. They want to know it. In every single time I've ever been to the domes, despite occult practices there, I've never had anything happen to me that would be considered a demonic attack. Now, it gets scary out there because the environment alone puts you in a very scared, protective vibe, and you will be startled. I guarantee it. But it's mostly a curiosity. Like, what are you doing here? Why are you interfering with whatever it is we're doing out here?
Is your impression, though, that it doesn't feel bad? Do you think this is who the people who go out and do these rituals, is that who they're communicating with? Do you think that when Brian goes out there that he'll be able to communicate with these figures?
I don't want to guarantee Brian gets anything, because you can't guarantee anything in the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
All I can just say is from my experiences. From my experiences, I'd say 99.9% of the time I ever went to the domes, I've had something happen to me. Can Brian communicate with something out there? I wouldn't say no.
I know Ghost Adventures, they caught stuff. They caught stuff on the I guess they were using a spirit box. Remember? Because one of them got so scared about it that he ran out of the building.
Yeah, it's possible to encounter something there, and it's possible to collect EVP. I will say that, because I have done it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can't tell Brian, hey man, it's going to be guaranteed you're going to get something. Like, the money you just spent on that plane ticket is so worth it.
Mm-hmm.
What I can say is I've been to a lot of haunted places. I've experienced a lot of haunted things. The domes almost always comes up with something. Whether it's going to be visual or whether it's going to be audible, I don't know. But as far as the vibe of the place, it is scary at night. But it's very rare that I'm ever in a situation where I get this that feeling of I have to go. I have to get out of here. Like when the footsteps ran up on me, I ran mostly out of being startled, but I went back because I was only startled. I went back.
Mm-hmm.
The situation of seeing the white figure and then the dark figure, that was a different situation. It had a different vibe to it. But I think whether I'm able to stay out there with Brian that night or whether he has to do it on his own, I think if Brian is out there on his own, even being a seasoned paranormal investigator, he's probably gonna be a little spooked.
Right.
There are some things that I can tell you if they happen to you, it's definitely going to be a little scary. Just because I think you go out there expecting a paranormal experience, but then when it happens to you, there's a difference between expecting it and seeing it. When you see it, you're still like, "Holy shit, I'm seeing this." Excuse my language, but that's your exclamation of, "I'm seeing this. Wow, I don't know what to do." And just figuring in the dark history of this place, people go out there and practice Satanism. It does throw in why would there be a ghost in a set of buildings that were merely built? They were never used.
Right.
They were never used. And there's no public record of anybody passing away on that property. So why is there paranormal activity out here outside of either Indian rituals or just Indians that have passed away on the property from hundreds and hundreds of years ago, or B, occult magics? And if it's occult magics, it can't be anything good.
Right. Exactly. Hey, Brian wants me to say to you, would Jory be up for an experiment? If he is afraid, I can use him for bait while I observe. We will bring them out. You will see. And Brian, I sent you an email. Told you Jory's days off. Jory, can you and Brian get together on email so you can work a day out? Because I told him what days you have off.
Well, I can tell him this, that I probably won't be afraid because I've been out there. I'll probably be startled.
He's afraid,
but
Brian.
I'm not going to be.
This kid is so afraid that you're so afraid that you wouldn't get out of bed to turn the air conditioning on for your wife who was dying from heat stroke because you were in a hotel room across from the Ursuline nuns, the baby wall.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to get up out of bed and have a one-armed Civil War soldier standing there staring at
See?
me. Pardon me. Yeah.
See?
I think anybody in their right mind wouldn't want to wake up and see a dead Civil War soldier in their room. Excuse me.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, do you think that you and Brian can set this up through email? I forwarded the email to you, and on that email it has his email address at the very bottom.
Okay.
So, do you think that that's possible, Brian? Do you think you would like to go straight to Jory instead of through me? No, Victor. We're talking about Native Americans. And like I explained, in Arizona, in the area we lived in, they preferred to be called Indian. So it's not out of disrespect. He said, "Oh yes, you will be."
I'll be afraid.
Yeah. You go out there, Jory. You kick some butt. So Brian,
I've been out there so much. I mean, I'll be startled, but anything that happens out there, I'm not afraid of.
Okay, I'll give you my blessed cross. Brian, are you up for emailing Jory and working it out? And did you get the email I sent to you? I think you guys, that would be awesome. And can we share this with my channel as well? When Jory goes out there and he's your partner, bait. You want to be bait, Jory?
Do I want to be bait?
Yeah.
If I'm in a situation that I don't know, then that's probably the best time to use me as bait. But
yeah,
if it's the domes, I already know that area like the back of my hand. I mean, I always have something happen to me, so in a sense, just me being there might be good enough to catch evidence. But
that's true because you seem to attract He says, yes, and need only one evening. I will stay all night. Jory is optional, whatever he feels like. Would you stay out there all night, Jory?
It would depend on the day.
Okay, so I sent him an email and told him what days you have off. So, Jory, can you please contact him with the email that you see at the bottom of the one? And will you guys do that? Because I think that everybody, for Brian's channel and for my channel, that would be so cool and perfect if it's in October. Because hello, October is Hallowtober. So tell them about your experience working on the Ghost Adventures.
Yeah, so they hired one of my many mother-in-laws to bring animals to the domes to film B-roll. And my father-in-law and his, I guess we'll call her wife, they're not technically married, but they've been together forever. They have a large swath of land that they farm with a ton of animals on it, and she runs a side business of they do like pony rides, and you can pet animals. And anyways, so they called her, the Ghost Adventures behind the scenes team called her, hired her to bring animals out to the set. And my father-in-law called my wife and was like, hey, doesn't Jory like that show, Ghost Adventures? And so I was at work, and my wife texted me, and she goes, hey, so-and-so is working on Ghost Adventures. They're here in town. And I was like, you've got to get me there. So the night of the lockdown, I was... my mother-in-law asked me to go out there and meet her because they weren't 100% for sure if they needed her, but they said that she was more than welcome to stay on property just in case. And she was like, okay, well, I'm bringing Jory, and they were fine with it. So I drove all the way out there, got on the property. Once I identified myself, they pulled me into a trailer that was on site, and they had me sign a bunch of safety paperwork saying it's not the fault of Ghost Adventures or the property owners if I get crushed from a falling dome. And I'm like, bitch, please. I've been out here 150 times. Give me a break. And so they were filming the B-roll, all the weird, like, I don't want to say animation. All the scenes that you see, like as Zach is like interviewing somebody, and then they cut to like a weird, like somebody acting out like they're a ghost or whatever. All that stuff was being filmed that day. So they had found the carcass of, it was either a cow or a coyote. I'm starting to now lean more towards cow. But they found the dead body of an animal on the property. And so
I think it was coyote.
Might have been coyote. But anyways, and I know this is going to be a little disturbing to say, but they set it up in the UFO dome to look like a satanic ritual killing. Mm-hmm. And we wrapped it in barbed wire and hung it from the ceiling of the UFO dome, and then built a satanic altar, and then shot the B-roll for that. And then we took the carcass and we wrapped it in a trash bag, and we taped it up, and we made it look like a human dead body. I can't remember what the premise of the dead body was, but we shot like fake blood over it. And then what they did, it's so cool to see all the behind the scenes stuff on this, but they set up this long plank of wood, and then they set up a camera on wheels, and then they got this gliding shot of the dead body. And they did a lot of these gliding shots. And when you watch the show, it looks so like high tech and cool, but really it was me and my mother-in-law holding the plank of wood down so it wouldn't move. And then a camera operator just moving the camera on wheels across this plank of wood so they could get the shot. Not very high tech, folks. We did another shot of another dead animal that happened to be on property. I had to hold down the base of wood once again while the camera operator was moving the camera around to get a shot of the dead body, the dead animal carcass.
Mm-hmm.
We went into what I call the fire dome, and we did shots of a person dressed as a demon, where my mother-in-law had a smoke machine and she had to keep shooting the smoke at this actor dressed as a demon. And then they put this person in a beam of light that was coming in from a broken part of the dome. And then somebody went outside with like this red plastic sheet and slid it up the side of the dome. That way the beam of light coming in turned red. So then it cast this really red, spooky light on this person dressed up as a demon with smoke coming from the floor. Let's see, what else did we do? We did that. If
anybody's watched the episode, you know that several times during the episode they have a pig's head like pull up and look into the opening. What was that? Tell them what that was.
The pig's head was just a person in a pig's mask.
A child,
a little girl, I believe it was just, yeah. It was just
to
a
me,
little
that's
girl
so
in a
creepy.
pig's mask. Yeah. They had like I think the girl with the pig's mask also sat on the shoulders of an adult, and then they draped a big black sheet over the child and the adult. And then they did a faraway shot of what was the tall shadow figure walking towards the domes from the desert. And then, it wasn't. There might have been a sheet involved, but I know the child that was used actually wore a full black bodysuit.
Oh.
And then they made this child climb one of the domes and then crawl across the top of the dome. And it was supposed to be done in like a very rigid, spooky, demonic, evil crawl across the dome. They also brought an Indian. I don't know if he was a legitimate shaman or if he was just an actor, but they brought in an Indian gentleman, had him dress up in shaman wear, which he did privately because outside of a few articles of clothing, he was pretty much naked. And then they separated him from the rest of us, and they just shot him doing some chants out in the desert for the B-roll. They had the girl in the pig mask. And then just before lockdown started, Jay Wasley came in and started setting up the cameras. So I had a chance to go talk to him while he was setting up cameras. And he was a really cool guy. And I actually, me and my friend Nick, who was on site with me, he ended up showing a little bit later. We told him about our encounters and I told him, I'm like, look, this is the stuff that happened to us. I don't know how you want to set up the equipment. That's all on you guys, but this is exactly where these things happen to us. And it'd be cool if you caught that. So he was like, cool, man, we'll keep it in mind. And then we might've thrown Jack Osborne under the bus a little bit to him, and he thought that was funny. I mean, to just completely dismiss paranormal activity because you find a sleeping bag really, really triggers me.
Yeah.
Especially with the evidence you caught, like if somebody's not giving off body heat and they don't trip sensors and knock over your camera, but still somehow is a homeless guy and we're going to debunk it, I'm done. I tap out.
Right.
But I digress.
And keep in mind, guys, this is the same area that I lived in where I have told several stories about my haunted house and where a supposed real estate agent came to my door and asked me if the people who lived next door to me had any paranormal activity. So this, Brian, I really think that you are going to like this. And I really wanted to talk about it because this is a very famous location. It's been covered by lots and lots of websites talk about it. Travel websites talk about it. Ghost hunting websites talk about it. Weird USA's talked about it. Like I said, it's been on a couple of shows, but we have the experience of knowing the culture there. We have the experience of Jory having been there several times. Most everybody I know has been there, and I wanted to come at this with you guys as not an abstract haunted building that we're going to talk about that we've never been to, but something that is close to us and where Jory still lives. He doesn't live in a dome, in the Casa Grande Domes, but so I wanted to give you the unique perspective that somebody like Zach Bagans can't give you, having not come from the area. And by the way, Jory, Josh Johnson wants to ask you if Zach Bagans has a soul.
Well, I didn't meet Zach Bagans at the Casa Grande Domes because I was there the day of the investigation. So the moment he appeared on property, we were all thrown off. The only one I got to meet that day was Jay Wasley. But once him and Aaron and Billy showed up, the producers were like, "All right, you guys got to go. Zach's here." And like the moment Zach appeared on property was when the lockdown started. There was no okay, let's get everything. Let's just focus ourselves. No, like Zach literally got out of the car and was like, "All right, let's go. Let's get this started."
You have met him. Did he seem like he had a soul?
Well, I was leading into that. I met Zach last year at his haunted museum in Vegas, and he was a pretty nice guy. So I would say that he has a soul.
Is it locked up downstairs with the rest of his weirdo stuff?
I didn't get to go into the museum because at the time it wasn't open to the public yet. He was outside talking to some female fans who might have been,
of course,
showing a lot of skin.
Oh.
And I was coerced by somebody in my vehicle to pull over because she is a massive Zach Bagans fan, well, Ghost Adventures fan in general. And when I got out of the vehicle, I thought everybody would come to me to go talk to Zach, and I ended up being the only one in his sight.
Uh-huh.
So as I broke the ice with Zach, then said female passenger ran over, got a picture with him, and then Zach was like, "Okay, I gotta go," and I'm like, "Oh, I did all the work and no picture." Great. But yeah, he was a nice guy. He was pretty cool.
Okay.
And so was Jay Wasley. Jay Wasley was so laid back and cool, and was interested in everything we had to say when we were at the domes, and he definitely took time out of his prep, which he didn't have to do, to talk to us. So, I mean, I've only talked to 2 of the 4, but both of them were really cool, and they took time to talk to us. And they might seem eccentric on TV, but off camera, they were really laid back and cool. So I don't have a bad thing to say about them.
Good. Very good.
So, yeah, once the lockdown started, I got kicked off of property, and yeah, the experience was cool. Everybody behind the scenes was nice and relaxed and cool. The main producer for the show was on site, and I talked to him a lot, and you can definitely tell he's a Hollywood dude for sure, but he was still a nice guy. All I can say was I had a really good time. It was fun.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. I was just there at the museum, but no Zach on my trip. Oh yeah, because you went to Vegas. I would like to go do that. To go see his museum.
I think that was just one of those weird, because we were actually,
because it wasn't even open.
Well, A, it wasn't open, and B, we were actually on our way to the Pawn Stars shop, which is, so you can walk from the Haunted Museum to the Pawn Stars shop. It's that close. We were on our way there, and we figured out, oh, hey, the Haunted Museum is just right over here. Let's go see that first. So it wasn't like we wanted to see the museum, but it wasn't on the exact to-do list at that moment. We were just like, oh, it's right there. Let's just go. And I mean, it must have been fate. It was so much fate, guys. Like totally, it was fate. No, but it was like we thought we might be able to show up, go into the museum, see some cool stuff, and leave. But we showed up and Zach Bagans was outside, and it's like, how do you not stop? Like, you got to stop and talk to him. He's outside of his museum talking to a couple girls. Like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he was real nice. He looked like he looked like he just woke up, and at that point I think it was afternoon. So you can tell he probably had done an investigation and barely woke up to go to the museum.
Well, maybe you can stay all night with Brian.
Maybe.
If you're not scared.
Or if I'm just not tired. My
Brian,
bedtime is like
you're
right
not a serial killer, right?
Yeah, please don't be a serial killer, Brian, because I think I said earlier in the show I choose to live.
Yeah. I don't think he will tell us if he is. But we're hoping to do another collaboration with Brian in February, which you guys will be thrilled about. So, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I just want to reiterate that for those of you who do believe in the paranormal, this definitely is a place, and it kind of seems like one of those odd places that are off the road, and despite its mild popularity you might not have heard about, it does have paranormal activity, and it will show something to you for sure. If you ever get a chance to come to Casa Grande and just go take a peek at the domes, I suggest it.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't suggest that you break the law.
I didn't say go onto property. I just said take a peek. You don't look. I had an experience before I even walked onto the property. I mean, all you have to do is just drive up to where it is on the road, and probably something will say, "Hey, dude, get out of here! I'm trying to take a bath or something."
I'm just gonna say two things. It's owned by a corporation. There's nobody on the property, which means nothing because I'm just making a statement. B, since I was contacted by law enforcement for going onto private property for my Witch's Gate video. If you want to go see my Witch's Gate video, please go look that up because I almost got killed by a train while we were there. I almost had to haunt the property I was investigating. Which, by the way, one of the people I took said to me, well, the good part was if you did die, you could have gone right there. A silver lining. So, the sheriff's deputy was nice enough to at least give me a view on my video. Thank you. So I will not promote anything like that. But if you guys have your own minds and you're adults, that is up to you. And like I said, even the newspapers tell you to go there. So
it's even just pulling up to the side of the road and looking at it gives you a vibe that not a lot of places that claim to be haunted give you. Even the Stanley Hotel, even though I really didn't have anything happen to me there outside of a couple minor things, that place still gives you a vibe of like, oh, there's something about this place. The domes definitely have a vibe to them.
Love places. Do you love that? I love that.
It is a pretty cool feeling to be able to go somewhere and immediately just get a sense of, okay, this is not like other places. So yeah, even if you just go just for the vibe of it, it's fun. It's cool. It's exciting, and it gets the adrenaline pumping. And if you stay at night, it will probably spook the hell out of you, and you'll probably do a dude run move. And
Diabolical Witness says, I'm 100% sane and have papers to prove it. Well, then what more could you want?
Well, that scares me even more because that means he had to go to a psychiatrist.
Shh. And they said he was fine. Yeah, the Skirvin Hotel, the second you walk in the Skirvin Hotel, it feels like the legit feeling with the very first time you ever watched The Shining and you're like, ooh, the Skirvin Hotel feels like that the whole time you're there. There are certain places that just, ooh, I love it. I couldn't love it. The Queen Mary, there was certain rooms that made my skin crawl. I saw something very distinct on the Queen Mary. What's that scratching noise?
It's me.
What are you doing?
Sorry, I was scratching.
You were scratching like a dog.
I was itching. It was an itch.
Jeez. I hope you're going to be okay.
I don't know. Talking about evil things, I'm seeing like this Black Death appear on me now.
They're saying that if it's illegal, it's more fun. Alcohol witnesses, all better now. Yeah. So, do you guys have any questions you want to ask about the domes? Anything else that we might have forgotten to bring up about the domes? Have you looked up the Casa Grande Domes before you guys came here? And, go read my story. It's not a true story. It's a fictional story. But
every other sentence out of her is, oh, by the way, guys, I wrote a story. Go check it out.
I can't help it. I'm a prolific author. Whatever. Whatever. But is there anything else you guys want to know? In the meantime,
any questions? Shoot them.
While they're typing, see if there's anything else they want to know. I have a new channel. It's a child's channel. It's a children's channel. It's something very, very different from my channel. So if you happen to know any 2-year-olds to 5-year-olds, you could send them that way. I read old school classic fairy tales like Aesop's Fables. I enjoy it very much. And it's way different than this. Very relaxing, and it's meant to be relaxing for children to have some quiet time. Everybody needs a little bit of a wind down time. And also, like I said, I have a Patreon account. If you guys consider supporting this channel through Patreon, there are several different perks for that, and you can read those on the tiers and make your choice. And of course, I would be very, very appreciative of that. And we can get this merchandise rolling out, which would be a lot of fun too. I'd like to do some giveaways with merchandise. We have some really, really good ideas. And if you are listening to this on my channel and you don't know, I write my own creepypastas / suspenseful stories that you will not hear anywhere else. All the creepypasta story channels have about 4 or 5 websites that they all mine from. So that's why you hear the same stories over and over again. That will not happen with my channel, because I also do not submit my written stories to any of those channels so that they can't be narrated by anybody else but me. Mad Meerkat says, loved the Billy Goat's gruff. Thank you, Steve. That was very nice of you. That was my children's channel. So if you know people who are kind of tired of hearing the same creepypasta scary stories, send them my way, because they won't hear the same ones, except for in the month of October, because we're going to be doing some Edgar Allan Poe, and I'm going to be doing some Charles Dickens. It's Emily Bronte. It's going to be a lot of fun. Classic horror, the original horror writers. And so send them over here and see if they like my content. If you're not already, please subscribe. Please like this video, you guys. It helps my channel to be recommended by YouTube. They do recommend channels even if they don't monetize them. So it does help to be recommended, and I appreciate that. And if you ring that bell, you'll be notified when my content goes up. I have a lot of different content. And also giving thumbs up to my stuff helps me know that you appreciate it, and is a good way to give some positive feedback. And I really appreciate that as well. So I have a group on Facebook, and so does Rob. And if Maya can put those links up, you guys are more than welcome to come over and join those groups. Rob really does a lot of hard work on those groups for us. Puts a lot of interesting content up, and as Jory can attest, he puts content up every day for you to read and videos for you to watch that are really interesting.
All day, and 24/7.
Diabolical Witnesses says there are only 5 on and 3 likes. Well, the weird thing about it is that when I get off of this, it'll show the real count of who was on and who listened. And that's usually closer to 45. And then people will listen afterwards. So, yeah, everybody do those thumbs up. And next week will be a podcast with Rob. And thank you, Jory, for doing this podcast with me. I appreciate it. Hello.
Thanks for having me on.
And thank you to producer Jeremy, who's done a lot of work and helped put the pictures on while we were talking. Mad Meerkat says, thanks, guys. Great podcast. Thank you, Mad Meerkat, for staying up so very late. It is, almost 4:15 where you are. So thank you. Thank you, moderator Maya, for your hard work. And thank you, moderator Josh Johnson, for helping her out. And I will put up content later this week. And I just want to tell you guys, I really appreciate you showing up and talking to us. It makes it a lot of fun. And Victor, I will probably not be on Discord after the stream. It's 10:30 and we have not even eaten dinner. So I think that's on the priority list right now. So good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.